Right, and that was getting to my next point, and it's good news for us. It's good news for us because Disney has been the way they are with quality. Instead of doing the I'd say the proper type of storytelling, well, you at least get to see the heroes build a little bit. That's some of the things that I've seen missing, especially in Star Wars. Like Rey comes out and she's force lightning and everything, no training, you know. Um, but because
Well,
those
Thorn,
stories are there, people are complaining, and we're leaving, we're unsubscribing. Right to your point, Caliph. They made their fast money, and now they're losing that, and all the money they invested, they're gonna make their money, and now it's going down, and they don't know when it's going to stop. And all it takes is some young creative people that understand the rules with a little bit of funding. We're going to start capturing people's audiences, right? Because if you're not, I'm going to desubscribe. Brian is already, he never subscribed, right? Many people are unsubscribing because you're not providing us what we want. You found a way to make money in from 2020 COVID to now, but if you make $10 million and you lose $20 million over a 15, 20-year span, you really haven't made any money. It's just a spike. But if you go below where you were before you started trying to do things fast to make money, you lose it. And history tells us that.
And the data
All
and the data is backing that up because right here it says Disney Plus witnessed a drop of 2.4 million subscribers from the previous quarter. Disney Plus subscribers dropped for the first time since its launch in 2019. So he's right. I think at the end of the day, man, I don't think quality is everything because clearly, I mean, you got Fast and Furious movies and Transformers movies. Those are popcorn movies. People are going to go see them no matter how bad they are. You know what I'm saying?
but
But
who's going to rewatch them? Who
Well,
bought
you're
the
forgetting about another
DVD?
thing too.
And Caleb, you're a younger generation. You watch the Fast and Furious?
When I was younger, I mean, they were okay, but now I can't watch that. I mean,
See,
like,
exactly.
well, like you're forgetting about another thing too, right? So when companies start going their decline, like they aren't making no more good products. They just buy with the small indie ones if they'll let them. That's another thing that's happening kind of with the game industry. Like some of the bigger companies, they ain't making no good games no more. So they just buy the small indie game companies, and it's like you look at Xbox, for example, or Microsoft or
Hmm.
Meta. They just buy up all the smaller studios, and then they still don't make no games. And I'd be like, bro, I mean, that's kind of one thing they do. Is if there's like companies making good indie games, like, yo, let's just buy them.
Right.
also to add, there's another
That's one thing
article
they're
that
doing now.
says Disney plans to cut 3% of its total global workforce in cost-saving move. $5.5
You
billion
mentioned that
dollars.
as well.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So I think there's something to what but I think Disney when it comes to Marvel and Lucasfilm, I think they're not a special case because I'm pretty sure this has happened before in Hollywood history or something similar to it. But I think they thought something like Marvel or Lucasfilm was guaranteed money. And I think Bob Iger even
Can't
said that
last
he was like,
forever.
you could just stamp Star Wars on something and it'll sell. And now he's
Fast money.
he's seeing now that no, uh, at least the Star Wars fans prefer quality over quantity. They want a good story. They want you to respect the older characters and stuff like that. But now I don't entirely agree with Uncle Dave. I don't necessarily think that there's going to be like this crop of smaller artists or whatever that's going to come up
That's not gonna happen.
and grab hold of or whatever. Maybe a larger company might grab hold of it, but I
And they'll
kind of
buy it. Yeah, they're gonna
kind of
buy out
going
that
to what
company if
yeah, kind of
possible.
going to what Travis is saying. The money's just not there unless you're big on YouTube or Instagram or something like that.
Yep.
I
See,
don't. They're not doling out the money like that no more.
that's what's going to happen. Like Caleb said, some smaller companies, production companies, they'll get picked up
Hmm. Okay.
They
as
don't necessarily get
groups.
picked up, Dave, the way you think. Eventually, it's going to start off good a couple of years, but eventually, over time, they start kicking people out of the company, and eventually, that company just becomes a part of the bigger company. That's usually what happens to these smaller, especially some of these game studios. That's what happens. So eventually, it
And
has to
then
become
and then the
the same
talent
thing as a big
leaves,
company.
and it resurfaces again. But the rule still stands: if they can't produce something that's going to be able to go into these companies' catalog and last past one generation, they're losing their investments. You think about Star Wars, right? It came out before I was born. 74.
I thought Star Wars
Vin-
came out in '79.
when did Star Wars come out? Look it up.
Yeah, I can look it up. Right
Episode 4. Star Wars 77.
77. Okay.
I was 2. I was born in 75. I was 2 when it came out. Then 1981, it came back. This same thing that came out in the theaters in 77, it resurfaced in like 81, 82. It went back into the movie theater, not TV. And we watched it again. We thought it was new.
It's back in theaters now, actually. Return of the Jedi. They did it. They put it in theaters for like a week, and it did really well.
You see what I'm saying?
But Disney didn't promote it. They didn't promote it. So that's what I see. That's what I say. But we got the wrong people were in high positions, like Kathleen Kennedy, and the type of people
Investors
she's
make
hiring.
a big difference nowadays.
Yeah,
investors.
Yeah, the type
If
of people
investors
she's.
are investing the right thing, and it's like, yeah, and the minute they invest in something wrong, they get even stricter and stricter, and they're willing to invest less into like a small company. You know,
Mhm.
they're only going to keep investing in big companies, making the same mistake.
Yeah, because they think they can cookie cutter things. And that's why. Same in the music industry, man. Same in the music industry. You have your golden ages, right? Of times when people were actually doing their craft right. And then
Yeah.
everything else in between is shit. Okay?
But that's because they're investors, dude.
90s hip hop. You choose the decade for the movies, Travis. We can just go down the board when it looks like when we look at things people produce, right? It's it's got to be at a certain level if it's going to really be a good investment. That's kind of all I'm saying, right? It has to at least be at a certain level if it's going to be if it's worth the investors' money. That means it needs to be able to sell a certain amount. One good thing, and that's the difference. I also see good product sells word of mouth, right? It does need a marketing budget. I'm not saying it doesn't, but word of mouth helps. But when you have, like we did the Quantum Wasp man and what's her name? This Wasp lady and Shrinking Man. Come on, guys, help me. Brain fart.
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
Ant-Man, right?
Ant-Man.
Wasp and the
The
quantum.
word of mouth is working against that movie, and they're constantly putting money on the marketing budget. You go and see it, and people on their podcast don't go see it. Don't go see it. You see what I'm saying? But the good movies that people put out, even if they're small, somebody will come and say, "Look, you got to see this. You got to." It'll get its cult following. I was watching the documentary on the making of Donnie Darko, and they was like, "We didn't think that was gonna make it. We couldn't put it in the theater because it was close to September 11th when we wanted to release it." That's one of my favorite movies. Still one of my favorite movies, and they didn't expect that much out of it. Just actors with money kind of leaned in and do this like this or whatever. It didn't get the greatest
Was it
budget
an older movie?
when it come out, like 01.
Yes, older
Yeah, you
now.
got to remember back in the day, I feel like investors were a lot more willing to put their money into something that, you know,
That was the thing. They
might
didn't
be
have a
kinda
whole
risky.
bunch of investors.
Nowadays, investors aren't willing to be risky. Like, that's just
No,
simple too.
no,
especially now with the
there's some
economy.
truth. There's some truth to what Carbon X is saying, because I watched this one YouTube channel called Viking Samurai, and he likes all the old '90s like martial arts movies, the Van Damme movies, those types of things. And he interviewed Scott Adkins. And I don't know if guys know who Scott Adkins is, but he's the guy that what's the biggest thing that he's played in? He was in Expendables.
Gotcha.
He was in that Ninja. He was the movie just called Ninja. What else?
Oh yeah, I know.
He's in the new John Wick movie. He
He's a fake
plays
ninja,
the fat guy,
the
but
karate ninja.
he's a British guy who's he's smooth with the moves. He's been in a lot of Michael Jai White movies. But anyway, he interviewed Scott Adkins, and Scott Adkins said, "Hey, back then, there was a mid-level for movies. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of those movies that went straight to VHS, or maybe had a small time in the theater, but or didn't do well in the theaters, they would get their money back through VHS." And he was like, "That market's gone now." You know what I'm saying? So I think Caleb's right. I think some of the larger studios are a little bit more stingy when it comes to maybe funding something that might be like a mid-level movie as far as the budget. Maybe not quality, but the
Well,
budget.
okay,
Yeah, go ahead,
it
Joe,
really,
because you would know more than this. So yes, please chime in.
yeah, well, it really depends on the funding house. I mean, like A24 is funding a lot, and they they did really well this past Academy Awards with everywhere, everything.
Oh, they did that
That
movie. I
film,
didn't know that.
yeah, that's A24 film. But
That Michelle Yeoh?
uh, huh?
Is that the Michelle Yeoh movie when she's multi-dimensional?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
great, great.
I mean, but A24, like companies like LMF. What else? I mean, there's companies who will are funding. Okay, well, everything you're saying, everything everyone's been saying is correct. I agree with the quality control and everything back in the '90s. Because the '90s was the golden time for independent filmmakers like
Mm.
myself. A lot of
Mm.
that's when Quentin, um, um, Kevin Byrne. I mean, all started coming. Came out at that time. I can't. Oh, dang, I can't think of it. Oh, David Fincher. Everyone came out during the '90s. From doing music videos, and David Fincher started doing music videos and stuff like that. Spike Jones was doing music videos. Started the Hughes brothers same way. Um, you know, um, yeah, the '90s was golden time. And but yeah, things have changed because of the internet, and
Mm.
now those accelerate windows, it collapsed accelerate windows because at the time when a movie would, it had a certain amount of time at the box office, and it got to cable and then DVD and stuff like that. But once the internet just collapsed all that, now you got AV, VOD, and all these different ways to monetize it and streaming and stuff like that, which is crazy.
Lucent. Oh, Studio.